So we had a creator sign recently, and what was so interesting was the fact that she asked us a stupid question. She said, do your chatters operate on a 9-to-5 basis? And we were sitting here thinking, what? And it actually got us angry to the point where we thought, you know what, we can't be angry. At the end of the day, there's other agencies out there, they're not providing a 24-hour service. And that's fine, because that means that we can always have the edge over most other agencies that don't have a complete 24-hour operation. A lot of companies operate on a 9-to-5 basis, but I want to know, why would you leave sales on the table? Do you really think if we're scaling someone up to $200, $200, the chatter, when he finishes his shift, is just going to go home? Of course not. They're going to be actively sitting there waiting to hand over to the next person, and I guarantee they will be excited to explain how this guy's spending, this guy maybe is about to spend, and we have that level of pride where even if someone's shift ends, they will literally stay behind because our team all eats from the same earnings. Later in the video, I'm going to be discussing exactly how we here at TDM offer a 24-hour service and how we structure our operation to always be as smooth as possible. There's only one reason as to why 24 hours might not actually make sense when it comes to chatting on an OnlyFans account. Potentially, this subscriber could notice that this creator is always active, and it then might not look authentic. When you have emotionally intelligent chatters, that kind of situation never comes to a point of being a problem. Now, if you're using Filipino chatters or people that are not going to represent the creator in the right way, they won't have the same level of pride in managing that type of complaint. However, other than that, there's not really any reason why you shouldn't have a 24-hour operation. And I'm going to be discussing some of the pain points that we find here at TDM when we're on phone calls and we hear about other people and how they run their businesses. And I think you're going to take a lot of value from this, because a lot of people tend to be in the mindset of that whole 9-to-5. If you look at your local town or your local city, I'm sure there's many businesses that you could think of that would potentially make a lot more revenue if they were open 24 hours a day. Now, there's different reasons as to why some businesses won't be open 24 hours a day. It could be local legislation, it could be noise. Whereas with OnlyFans, it's online. There's no reason as to why anybody should be leaving money left on the table. If you had somebody on that account 24 hours a day, you're going to make more money. It's just inevitable, because there's always an opportunity to have a better conversation. There's always an opportunity to potentially upsell something with some better content or a better idea or a custom. It could be anything. There's so many different ways in which you can structure a sale on an OnlyFans account. It's not necessarily about the content, but it's about the conversation. It's about the emotion. It's about getting to know that subscriber. So maybe putting 5 or 6 more hours where you're currently inactive on the account into the actual emotional relationship with that one-to-one subscriber. That's going to be where the value is. And then later on in the day or the night or whenever it may be, you're going to actively make more money. Being active on the account 24 hours a day, it's not always about trying to sell through that whole 24-hour period, but it's knowing when to put time and energy into getting to know your subscriber and the emotion behind that. It's not always about sales. So when we talk about having an account that's being ran for 24 hours, we're not trying to send a PPV literally every single minute, because you have to really understand what times are busy on this account, what times are quiet, when do we need to be slightly more aggressive in the PPVs that we're sending out, when do we need to kind of rein that in and go with a more cautious and emotional approach. So that's everything we do here at TDM, and later in the video I will be discussing that in further detail, because it's important that you guys know this. And this leads me on to the next part of the video, and that's, why on earth are you taking days off? Sorry, I'm actually off tomorrow because it's my day off, or tomorrow is this day because it's a bank holiday, or it's Christmas, I'm not going to be active tomorrow. It's like, wait a minute, you're running a 24-hour operation 7 days a week and you're going to accept that there's more money left on the table. Now that's fine. It might not be your goal to strive for excellence every single day, and there might be days where you do want to take a day off. You just have to accept that there's agencies out there that are prepared to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It may seem obvious why we've just talked about those things, but to me, it's so easy to recognize that it's so important to work 24 hours a day in this type of business. You wouldn't turn off your website if you were selling things online. Like, why would you do that? You just wouldn't do it. But the fact that your website is automated means it's a no-brainer to leave it on. So you just have to set up your agency in a way to where being 24 hours actually makes sense and actually works. So let's actually talk about how we do this here at TDM. What is the structure? How did we get to the point where we have a 24-hour operation, where I can go to sleep, where Liam can go to sleep, and really be at a point where things are completely smooth sailing? First thing is recruitment. We've actually got a full video detailing how we've recruited here at TDM. The second thing is about availability, making sure that the staff that you have are fully available, whether that's weekends, public holidays, all the things that we just talked about, making sure that they actually care about working the hours that most people are not prepared to do. Because if you've got people that want this day off and want that day off, your rota becomes an absolute nightmare, to where it would make more sense to just outsource that area of the business, which is why a lot of agencies come to us to manage things like the chatting. A lot of the creators come to us to manage both obviously the marketing and the chatting. But really, like, I can understand where a lot of people struggle with this, because if you can't recruit in the way that we can here at TDM, it's going to be so hard in order for you to get that 24-hour operation smooth. The third thing is handovers. Having those face-to-face handovers where one chatter sits with another chatter who's just starting his shift, explains how the past 12 hours have gone on the account. That is so important, because if there's been any sort of complaint or any sort of custom request, or maybe there's a specific conversation happening and you don't want to change the direction of that conversation. If you've got Filipino chatters where one finishes and one starts and they're not in the same room or the same vicinity, it's going to be really hard for them to communicate. Whether it's in a group of some sort, it's not going to be to the same level of depth. Whereas if you've got two people sat next to each other, they can literally share their screen, have a chat about it, have a bit of a laugh about it based on what the current situation is. And it's good camaraderie, and it keeps the teamwork together. Not only does this allow for a smooth transition, but it also means that we can keep the flow of not only the conversation, but the PPVs going. The fourth thing is the office and how motivated that makes our staff feel. Coming to work here is not a chore. Most businesses, most offices have the most boring, mundane office that you could possibly ever imagine. And if you've got chatters working from home, they're also going to be distracted, they're going to fall asleep, they're not going to have any type of energy around them where someone just got a 200. It motivates them in their own strategy to up their game. In our office, we've got things like boxing pad work going on, we've got things like chess, we've got things like table tennis, pool, we've got a gym. There's so many different activities and things to do here that it allows them around their work time to bond with other members of the team that will ultimately uplift them. It gets to the point in this office that you literally forget what time it is. It often gets referred to by other people as a bit of a time warp, because when you come in here, no matter what time of the day it is, the music's always blasting, people are always communicating, there's always some sort of energy going on because someone just got some crazy scale up on one of the accounts that we're currently managing. And it's just an active place, so whether it's 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 11 a.m, it doesn't matter. There's always a positive vibe in here. And that comes back to a video that I recently did on how to judge somebody's character in order to bring good people into your circle and life. To summarize, we're going to talk about the 9 to 5 loser mindset, because a lot of you are still in that realm of thinking, and I think that's what is most dangerous. Your parents, your grandparents, anybody that you've ever grown up with typically had a 9 to 5 job. Anybody that you've ever known, whether it be a friend or family member, everyone's operating under this same old school mentality. And I actually attribute most of businesses' unsuccessfulness to the 9 to 5. Because if your business still operates on a 9 to 5, whether it's OnlyFans or not, you need to really understand of how much business you're potentially losing out on. If we look at the 9 to 5, it's an 8-hour day. That leaves 16 hours that is currently not being monetized. So it leaves you with two different options. One, build your own team. The problem with building your own team is if you're new to this OFM industry, or maybe you haven't been operating very long, or maybe you're still a very small agency, you don't want to be taking your focus away from things like marketing and things like recruitment. They're actually going to scale your agency both horizontally and vertically. Those are the things that you do not want to be distracted against, because not only will that hold you back, but it will distract you massively, because I tell you now, building a team is hard, and it's something that's taken us years to do. The second option is to hire a team, and what's great about hiring a team is they tend to come with more competence, more confidence, and better structure, and it means that you can also buy back your time from wasting time and energy into recruiting staff. Now, if you look at how much time and energy it takes to recruit staff, it is a very monotonous task. And if you don't trust people and you don't have a lot of people around you that you can trust, it's going to be almost impossible, because you're going to end up hiring a team that could potentially end up snaking you. So what you're better off doing is actually hiring a team, putting trust and confidence into them and their experience, and ultimately just paying for a simple service with one direct line of communication for all of your creators. Now, this is going to buy back your time, like we talked about. And what that means is, if you're putting time and energy into recruitment and marketing, now you're not going to have to take any of that time and energy away from that. You can literally double down on that, because now you don't have to worry about what Steve did on the weekend and how he fucked up because he didn't turn up for his shift. You're not going to have to deal with any of these problems, because teams that can ultimately offer you 24-hour chatting should sit slightly overstaffed. We always sit slightly overstaffed in our own operation. That means that if we ever take on a big 0.01% account, which is very, very likely, or potentially someone doesn't turn up for their shift, there's always more people here, and there's never a point where we're overworked. I hope you got some value from that video, and although a lot of the things we talked about might seem obvious, sometimes they need to be drilled into your mind over and over again for it to actually stick. And when it sticks and you can think clearly and you understand exactly what you're going to do next with your agency, that is when you will start seeing results.